Good evening and welcome to Face for the Newsfirst team. I'm Niresh Eliathambi. Now, with the disaster situation that befell our country, what is the exact situation with regard to tourism? Much is expected of the tourism industry in Sri Lanka, and we are just going into the major tourist season. And to answer the vital question, has our tourism been affected, or is Sri Lanka tourism back? We have in the studio this evening Mr. Buddhika Hewawasam, who is the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotions Bureau and also the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. Good evening and welcome, Buddhika.
Good evening, Niresh. Thanks.
Right, so I'm going to put you on the spot right away. Is Sri Lanka's tourism industry back to normal? We had a tough week or so, week 10 days, but how fast is it getting back to normal? Can tourists come to Sri Lanka today?
Of course, Niresh, it is immediate and definite. There's no two word about it. Even right now, we got tourists, and they have been, going all over the country. And yesterday, we handled about 2,800 tourists coming in a cruise. So we don't have a kind of issue right now of the revival of tourism. It is definite right now.
Well, that's really great to hear, because, of course, if you're sitting in London or Frankfurt or Paris or wherever, and you've planned to come to Sri Lanka, you would be wondering, well, should I go or should I not go, and so on. But it's definite.
It is.
There's no issue any part of the country.
No, Niresh. Actually, at least a single road is being open to all tourist sites. All tourist attractions are open right now. So the major wildlife park like Yala is actually flock around tourists right now. And we never stop charter flights coming from Europe. Mattala is always having the connectivity to those charters. We handle about 800 passengers coming from Russia, and air connectivity is reassured, and all the flights are coming in the normalcy without any problem, and even including the cruises.
Right. So let's go step by step. Bandaranaike International Airport.
Yes.
Normal. No issues at all?
No, not at all.
Right. Then the roads, the expressways to Colombo and down south, no issues at all.
No issue at all.
Right. In fact, the southern province was the least affected. The three districts of the southern province are not even those which are listed as having been affected. That's Galle, Mathura and Hamathura. Yes. And also this season is the southwest season, isn't it?
Exactly, it's the southwest season. Yeah. It's the winter tourists that we are expecting. And we do have at least 80% occupancy in the southern belt itself. Right. Starting from Bentota up till Hambantota, and even further to Pasikuda, the occupancy levels are really, really good.
Right. So actually it would be difficult to find a room.
Exactly.
More than anything else, I would think. Yeah. And the prices would be higher than usual as well.
Yes.
Right. And you mentioned the East Coast, yes. Pasikuda,
yes.
Arugambe, Trincomalee. Yes. Are they back to normal?
They are back to normal. There are a few properties which is being damaged by the floods, but in the coastal fronts, the floods have been the early floods. So they are mostly the wind and flood damages which are actually being repaired as well. But 80% of the properties are actually very clear, and also being there is a continuous tourist flow there as well.
Right, lovely. Now, what about the other areas, Kandy and Nuwara Eliya, which bore the brunt of the damage actually?
Exactly, yeah.
But I spoke to tourism professionals, hoteliers in both those districts
yes.
this morning, and they were quite bullish, and they said they are open for business.
It is.
And they've got over the initial the issues which came up. Are both Kandy and Nuwara Eliya back to normal?
Yes. Starting from the access ways, both Kandy and Nuwara Eliya has been reached from the road itself. It's motorable. It's Hatton Road is quite open right now to Nuwara Eliya, as well as Kandy is open directly from the particular Kandy to Kandy Kurunagala road itself. So that that access ways are being opened for last 3 days. Last 2 days it was being open, and in all those districts, especially the tourism areas of Kandy as well as in Nuwara are actually having a kind of a massive room capacity, and with the 5 stars, 4 stars and 3 stars, there are damaged properties here and there in the hill front, all these kind of places, but it is less than 5 to 10%. 90% of the properties are actually waiting for tourists to come there. If you think about Nuwara, we do have kind of a good mass of 5-star hotels, and that has a room inventory of over 800. So they are actually requesting us, even in the morning, they are waiting till the tourists to come and enjoy Nuwara back.
Right. And you mentioned the roadways, access to these tourist towns, these resort areas. I think the RDA at the height of the crisis said there was something like 300 to 400 roadways which had been damaged or blocked or so on. But I think almost every single one of those has been cleared now. I think there's 1 or 2 where the roads have been washed away.
Exactly.
But otherwise, I mean, 1 or 2 in the whole country is nothing much.
It's nothing much.
Yeah. I think that Gompolo area is one of those, right?
Yes.
Right. Great. And okay, what about cancellations? Are we seeing cancellations, or is it negligible?
It is negligible because of the fact, Niresh, this season is actually early bird season. So the bookings from Europe are actually booked and reserved, say, at least 6 months ahead. And they are very, very particular and looking forward to be coming for a more sought after destination in the world. So their Sri Lankan tour, they were being very watchful. They really eager to come there. And I see, like, say, we were being talking about all major tour operators throughout this period, and their cancellation level is less than 5%. And surprising fact is, there are new bookings coming in.
Right.
Sometimes one travel agent, actually one of the largest in the country, he's been saying they had about, like, say, 50 cancellations, but there are 150 new bookings they reserved from this particular 2 days of time.
So that's wonderful to hear. So clearly the travel agents, the Sri Lankan travel agents, the tour operators are also putting the word out that
of course,
it's safe to come here. No issues whatsoever. Now you mentioned the cultural sites.
Of course.
So we're talking, let's say, for example, Polonnaruwa, Anuradhapura, Dambulla, Sigiriya. Are they open?
They are all open. Actually, Sigiriya was only closed for a 1 day's time, and then it was being opened. Sigiriya throughout had the tourism.
So tourists are climbing up to the top.
Climbing up, and there are photographs. Actually, the various people are being posting. They came into the front and get the photos done and everything. And even Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa, though the flood is being affected those areas, those sites are open right now, accessible right now, and tourists can go there itself. That is the guarantee that CCF is being given 2 days back. So
Central Cultural
Fund. Exactly. Yes.
Right. And what about the national parks? You mentioned Yala.
Yes.
And the other parks. So are they generally okay?
Yeah. The major national park was Yala. So Yala had about, like, say, 3 gates to access. Gate number 1, 5 and 6. All 3 gates are open right now. And then all the beachside parks that we have, may it be Bundala, Kumana, Vaskamuwa, as well as the other parks surround the particular eastern coast, all are being open. And the upper front, there are parks like, say, Somawati, which is anyway, it's been getting flooded and very less number of tourists going there. But the majority of the wildlife parks, I think 85% of the wildlife parks are right now open. And surprising fact again is, there are whale watching sites in Sri Lanka. There's a marine park in Hikadu as well as marine park in Mirissa. Both are in open. Both are actually operating boats right now.
Fabulous. And of course, last week there was a warning not to put to sea. But that's been lifted. And
that's been lifted. Both Coast Guard as well as the Wildlife Department were given the green light 2 days back. Now everything is being in line.
Right. Now, we all know that there was a very significant loss of life. And that is so unfortunate. Our hearts go out to the families of those who lost their lives. But something struck me. Not a single tourist lost his or her life, and that's fabulous.
Yes.
And it points to me, it looks like our people safeguarded the tourists, the hoteliers, the tour guides, the travel agents, the operators. They all seem to have protected the tourists and made sure they were safe.
In fact, Niresh, actually, when this particular cyclone hits and the news goes on, we started our hotline itself, 1912, which was being supported by all the tour operators, travel agents, hoteliers, as well as anybody who's in the country. Wherever the tourists are being getting affected, they were called us. And the moment they called, actually there's a massive support we got from the Air Force, as well as the Navy and the Armed Forces. And they were going into the site and they rescued the people then and there. So stranded people, I think, like say until day before yesterday, we cleared every single person who called there. We handled about 300 odd stranded tourists from that Nuwara and Mahanur area. And the best fact is, until that we were being airlifted them, they were being well looked after by the hoteliers. Sometimes if one hotel is being damaged, the rest of the hotels have been taken them back, and some of the hotels in Nuwara actually given the shelter to them, and they were never being charged. They were being all complimentary. They handled it. They in that crisis, they all got together. One good fact in Sri Lanka is we are really very well respect to our visitors and the guests, and we are always giving priority to the guests' betterment as well as the protection, more than even the particular personal protection of ours. And then everybody get together, looked after them so well, and all the forces have been bringing them into Colombo. I must give you some examples that we handled a group of Bulgarian tourists from Nuwara and Kandy area, about 40 of them. We bring them to Colombo, we looked after them, and then there are German tourists as well as Indian tourists. Again, sometimes what happens is, like say, when we bring them down to Colombo, after the climate is been so well, and they continue the rest of the tour as well. There are some instances of that sort as well. So overall, it was a very collective effort, because I think I must thankful for the tourism industry and its stakeholders who all got together, forgetting the personal differences of whatsoever. From the down under, from tourism drivers, then to the chauffeurs, then to the national tour guides, then to the hoteliers and the operators, we all got together. All got together in that particular effort. Somebody who's been getting a kind of news, they called, they came into the hotline, we like say connected them into the network, and there was a massive mission was being happened within that particular 3-4 days of time. That resulted with no major incident to the tourists. And nobody even like say in hospital right now. All the tourists and the groups who being called and being like say handled by us, they came to Colombo, safely rescued, and we were given all the, again I must thankful for the airlines who were given a chance for them to rebook anytime very flexibly. And there are no cancellation charges, no whatsoever the date change charges. That was the first that they made. And then the visa waiver is being given. So if they want to go out of the country, we made their particular journey so well. And even at the Colombo, they were being well looked after by our hoteliers in Colombo as well.
Fabulous. And it is that fabulous spirit of Sri Lankan hospitality which shines through whenever there is a crisis, and especially with regard to our visitors. So that's really great to hear. Now, Buddhika, you mentioned a cruise ship which has brought something like 2,800 passengers.
Yes.
Now, this obviously was one which was pre-planned. It was on its way here, and they did not flinch. They didn't say, "We're not going to Sri Lanka. We'll continue, on to the next stop." They stopped in Colombo, and the passengers, most of the passengers usually disembark and they go on day trips and so on. So all that happened.
All that happened.
Right.
That was happened yesterday. Even day before yesterday, there was a small cruise came to Colombo, and cruised about like less than 1,000. But yesterday, it was a cruise of 2,800 odd people came down from Germany. So it's a long cruise coming here, operated and owned by TUI. You know that TUI is the largest tour operator in the entire world right now. So they had a confidence of bringing their cruise here, which has been going towards the Mauritius side, and they came it down, and all the passengers are being did day trips there, and not only doing the day trips in Colombo. Today, that same cruise is in Hambantota Harbour.
Right.
Most of them are visiting Yala National Park, the other sites in Hambantota. So it was actually handled by the foremost, one of the foremost Sri Lanka tour operator, Atkins Spence itself. And there's a confidence built between the particular parties, especially the international operators, are having a massive confidence on the local DMCs and as well as the tourism industry here, that when we are being giving a word, we are actually giving it with a confidence as well as with the accuracy. So they came down, and there are many cruises in line to come to Sri Lanka within the next couple of days.
Right. And the cruise ships which, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes.
the cruise ships which come to Sri Lanka are ones which are generally traveling long distances.
Of
They're
course.
around the world cruises,
Yeah.
or at least they're going from the Middle East or perhaps Europe to Southeast Asia. So we're talking about a cruise of several weeks at least.
Yes.
And those are high-end passengers.
Very
They're not,
much.
they're not the type who, there are day cruises. You can fly to Singapore or Malaysia and go on a day cruise and you come back in the evening. It's not that. These are people who have invested a lot of money in their cruise.
Yes.
And so clearly they're not going to take any risks, and they're knowledgeable.
Yes.
And TUI or any other operator is not going to take risks with
Not
them.
at all.
Right.
Not at all.
So that's fabulous to learn.
Yes.
Any issues with travel insurers for the moment?
Not particularly.
Not at all.
Actually,
Okay.
see, most of the organizations are looking at it as of course, it's a natural disaster, but at the same time, country's general safety, protection, and everything is in order. So I think that assurance is there.
Right. And of course, no foreign government has put out any travel advisories. It would be silly of any country to do that,
Of course,
because their embassies are here and they can see the situation on the ground.
I think most of the missions working very closely with us, and they first-handedly experience how we handle their tourists within that particular crisis time period, and how we bring them to Colombo, looked after them and everything. And of course, natural crises can happen anywhere, anytime in the world. But it's all about handling them properly and protecting them and looked after them well and having a proper system in place. I think that's been assured with this crisis, because the sheer fact that there's no tourist is been facing a kind of a major incident itself. There's no whatsoever losses. Is itself has been showing that we are handled it so well, at least in the tourism front, all the aspects are being covered.
And these days, on any given day, how many foreign tourists do we have in the country?
So if you think about the arrivals, when this particular incident happened, we reached 2.1 million arrivals.
Right.
So that was highest in any month of November.
Right.
So November month we handled about 210,000 tourists. So that is over and above our highest year of 2018.
Right.
So, and particular day, at least about 7,000 to 8,000 reach Sri Lanka.
Right.
So December first week is the time period that the peak of peak starts in Sri Lanka. And say given period, at least within those regions, we had about good 20 to 30,000 tourists on all these particular sites.
Right.
So it's a good sign. Most of them are actually right now continuing their tours. Most of them, almost all of them, were being secured, were finished their tours. Even they being affected in affected areas, they came to Colombo and been looked after. So there's a good number of tourists being there, because the November month was the best November month ever. And fact is now it's been continuing as well.
Right. So if we had 30,000 tourists here on any given day during this period, and no one lost their lives, I mean, that's a credit, I think, to our the tourism industry and the armed forces and the nation, our people.
I think as a nation we have to be proud of it, as well as every single person, from the industry stakeholders to the armed forces and even the general community. They all got together in there. That's why I mentioned, like, say, we looked after our guests so well. Even sometimes you will not be looked after your own ones that well. Like, you have been going beyond to be looked after them, going the extra mile. But I know, like, say, in the certain hotels when these tourists are being stranded, they put all the effort getting all these kind of rations and everything. They cook meals and ensure that they are not hungry until that we come and rescue them.
Right, wonderful indeed. And we have a lot more to talk about with regard to the industry itself. Great things are expected, and of course the industry is reaching for those lofty targets, and of course developing the infrastructure as well. So we will look at all that when we come back after this short commercial break. I am in conversation with Mr. Buddhika Hewawasam, who is the chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I am in conversation with Mr. Buddhika Hewawasam, who is of course the chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism. Buddhika, you are the person in charge of this collective effort to take Sri Lanka's tourism industry as far as it can go. When I say you're in charge, of course there's a bunch of stakeholders ranging from the president to the prime minister to the minister, deputy minister, all those people, the wonderful folks at Sri Lanka Tourism, SLTDA and so on, and of course the stakeholders, the hoteliers, the travel agents, the tour operators, all of those people, and you are the person who's overseeing this to make sure that this industry carries our country and our economy forward. So a huge responsibility, no pressure, okay. but the last time we met was 1 year ago, on this show, and you spoke about your plans, and you had just been appointed. So I'm happy to see that so many targets have been achieved, and I think last month 2.1 million tourists, which is fabulous. Let's talk about, we have just 1 month to go. What is our target for 2025, and are we going to reach it? What's the situation?
Yeah, originally we've been targeted about 3 million.
3 million
of this year. So we had certain hiccups, I must say, like, say, even not the particular crisis of ours, it's negligible considering all the factors. But there was a hiccup at the airport connectivity, and the airport was not been expanded for so long. So we had a kind of a cancellation of at least 40 slots from last May onward. So that means, like, say, we lose about 8,000 to 10,000 tourists each week.
Right.
So that itself is being cascading and accumulating until last month, where the private sector in tourism, I must thank again, the major bodies, major corporates in tourism, Atkins Spence, John Keel's, LOLC and Haley's got together with Sri Lanka Tourism. We build up a temporary terminal there. Moment we build the terminal, we have been able to clear that 40 slots. That has 14 new counters, and it itself is being producing tourists throughout the month of November. So with that, we expect we will be reaching 2.5 million tourists for this year, which anyway is the historical highest, because like 2018 was the historically highest year of Sri Lanka.
Just before COVID.
Just before COVID.
Rather the 2019 situation, yeah.
So that was 2.33 million or 2.32 million. So that was the particular achievement at that time. So I'm definite we will pass it, because of the fact that we had 2.1 million tourists by November 30th. And even we get the target of being 2.5 lakhs of tourists, which is, I think, very easy because of the fact the particular numbers that we have been reaching. Though these few days we had a kind of a restrictive time period, overall there's a kind of huge positivity, which we will definitely go for the historically highest numbers of tourism ever in Sri Lanka. So that's a definite statement that we can make even right now with all the efforts of the industry, other stakeholders and ours. So that itself has been giving a kind of a real good platform for us. From there to be build up the tourism industry as the main economic force of the country. So this gives the promise, this has the confidence. I must say that first media interview I did in my appointment last year in November is with you. So there we have been talking about how tourism industry can revive, plus how it can be a kind of economic force of the country and the major economic force of the country. So we are in that pathway. We passed certain milestones. We became one of the most sought after destinations in the world. So at least we had about 10 to 15 accolades within this year. Best destination for solo travelers to travel. Then the Lonely Planet is being listed. Cities of ours, latest is Jaffna is being listed by Lonely Planet. And along with that, we had many other kind of accolades that we had, like most desired island to travel, and any tourist bucket list today has Sri Lanka in it. So we were being able to build up that rapport. We had that PR exercise done. We did the marketing exercise with all the trade gatherings, trade partners and everybody. And we achieved so far because of that collective and synergized effort.
Right, wonderful. So that's a lot of good news, Buddhika. But I must ask you about one aspect, which is the revenue per tourist.
Yes.
Is something, I mean, we do want it to go up as much as possible.
Yes.
But
yes.
our country, first during the war situation and so on, we became pretty much a backpackers destination, and then it takes a long time to build back up to become a premium destination. So first you need the numbers, numbers of tourists coming in, and the infrastructure, and then you have to sort of, up your rates and get the most out of each tourist. So what's the plan? I know we discussed this a year ago.
Of course.
But from now, since we are going to reach, 2.4, 2.5 million tourists, and next year, we'll have even greater numbers.
Of course.
How do we now get this revenue back up?
Yes. Lirish, there are two sides of it. First, I must say, this year we did something also. What we want is not to be having a fabulous numbers and showing a kind of a window dressing over tourism, but go deeper down into there and drilled it with facts. So we first time after, I think, 2015 or so, did the proper survey to calculate the revenue based on UNWTO methods and get a sample of 10,000. So there only we came into the figure of $148 per day expenditure per tourist.
So that's an actual figure. It's not shooting in the dark like earlier.
Figure itself,
right?
Which actually been done with a 1 year survey, counted in many places, and throughout the year the fluctuations are being counted. The nationwide, the expenditure is being counted. The destination, the market-wise, the expenditure is being counted. So we did a kind of very comprehensive survey to understand the particular expenditure, and it's been verified and guaranteed. So last time when we did this survey in 2017 or 18, the sample was about 3,000 or less.
Which is a fairly small
sample, and figure we took is $181. So if you compare 2018's exchange rate to today's exchange rate, so dollar is, Sri Lanka rupee is devalued at least 3 times. So the dollar was in 170s or lessers at that particular time, and now we have been reaching about 300 itself. So that itself has been showing tourists who come to the country has more capability of spending the dollars and getting more returns out of it. So if you have been thinking about $148 and multiply it by the dollar rate right now, obviously the rupee rate that you have been getting is much higher. So we get about 45,000 against 32,000 at that time. So that is one factor we need to be considered. When a currency is devalued, tourists get benefited, but at the same time, the count on the dollars will not be the highest. And the other fact is, after the COVID and the particular world travel patterns are being changed, people are more or less a bit conscious about spending all over the world. So we did a comparison with our competitive destination, even the luxury destinations of our nearby Maldives. The particular expenditure is over 500 in pre-COVID or before COVID. But now the particular expenditure in here is being tagged somewhere in 350.
This is Maldives.
Maldives. And if you go to the larger tourist destinations, Thailand, Malaysia and all, it is less than 100. So globally in the tourism industry, the per day expenditure has an effect. So how to but the question which is we need to focus is how to mitigate the effect, which we have the potential of mitigating. One factor is to be getting more and more ways tourists to be engaged and do certain amount of more expenditures on the other activities. That means having more engagement activities, having more sports, having more musicals, having more night markets and things like that. All these kind of things need to be come up. So good insight of that particular factor of 148 is that. Secondly, we need to think about, like people have been talking about here, we will be only catering for luxury tourists and the upmarkets and the boutiques and all, which I am not in agreement. Because what we need to consider is two factors. One factor is the particular per day expenditure, other factor is the leakage. Now we have been completing our leakage survey as well. By December mid, we will be releasing the leakage survey data as well. Then we know out of that $148, how many dollars retain in the country, how many leaked out. So if you have been only focusing on the luxury upmarket tourism, what happened is most of the inputs are actually imported to Sri Lanka. Most of the inputs are not having alternatives here. As an example, maybe like say more sought after champagnes or wines, we don't have a replacement here.
Right.
And you have been thinking about the upmarket inputs like say Ceylon or maybe like say steaks and things like that. Probably our inputs are not that great. So we need a mix of those tourists, considering not a compromise of leakage over the particular expenditure. So we need to have all the layers of tourism. Then only at least like say the effect of distribution of tourism going to the particular other layers as well. So we need to have a kind of more scientific planning on we have been deciding how we have been matching the particular expenditure or like say increasing the expenditure. I am not particularly interested only to be having or tagging ourselves as a luxury, upmarket, high-end, whatsoever. What we want is high-value tourists who are actually engaged more, spending more locally oriented, more into the particular genuine experiences which made the particular life on both ways easier for the tourism industry. That means the expenditure will be higher, plus it retains in the country.
Right, and also it occurs to me, Buddhika, that we, as in Sri Lanka, we have a lot of homestays.
Yes.
And that, it's been a lifeline for many families that they have been able to, rent out a room to tourists, just, put it up on the internet and, they get some kind of tourists, some kind of revenue, and that's not a big cost to them. Sometimes they actually build a room if there's demand. But it's, of course, those are what we would call backpackers and so on. But it is a big, very important source of revenue for that family, isn't it?
Of course.
And you get this throughout the country. I mean, from Arugambe to Polonnaruwa to Kurunegala, you get this happening, and it's very important, isn't it?
Of course, Nilesh. Actually, you are very correct. Most of the people who are actually in the homestays are not only providing the lifeline for themselves, but giving a kind of a very genuine experience for the tourists. If you have been thinking about the postmodern tourists, or if you have been thinking about the new generation tourists, they just don't want to be in having a kind of a more staged kind of thing. They want to have a kind of real authentic experience in the country. So we do see even the CEOs even the top end earners of the country, when they travel, they stay in homestays. When they travel, they use local transportation. When they travel, they eat local food rather than going to a kind of a, say, Michelin rated restaurant or like upmarket thing. They want a kind of a very genuine, immersive experience themselves. So catering to that market is being done by these homestay people itself. So we are very much focused on the homestays. In last year, we trained a lot of homestays. We do have a kind of online training program developed with the particular donor agencies. Then we are actually having a kind of entrepreneurial network done there. But one thing what we are very much focused is making them registered and certified with us. Then at least we have a kind of a guarantee that they are maintaining the proper standards itself. And there's a quality guarantee for the tourists who have been coming here. So protection, safety and every aspect is being covered. But that market is something which is very, very vital. One thing for distributing the tourism industry to the countrywide, maintain the particular sustainability aspects and keeping a kind of a communities getting the particular revenue of tourism. And other than that, even to be maintain all these kind of leakage effects and other macroeconomic macroeconomic effects in the country. So it is income generation, it's community based, plus it is very much vital, Nilesh.
Right. We're almost out of time, unfortunately, but I have a couple more questions. One is infrastructure development, Buddhika.
Yes.
And this is something we spoke about a year ago. What's the progress in that, in terms of tourism infrastructure and also national infrastructure?
In that question, basically, if you think about the tourism infrastructure which was being catered by the private sector, if it is accommodation, other kind of modes of infrastructure, there is a massive development within the year. So we had a adding of at least 10,000 new rooms within the particular year, and out of that I think good 4,000 hotel rooms are within star class categories. Even in Colombo city you can see a lot of 5 stars are being adding and all these kind of things are being happening. If I must say what is the priority of ours, the criticality of ours, first is accessibility, second is accessibility and the third is accessibility. One thing is the expansion of the particular international airports of ours and use of our airports fully. We have like 4 international airports. Jaffna we have, and Ratmalana we have, and Matala we have, and also BIA, and also including Batiklo, though it's internationally certified for small flights. So those airports need to be utilized fully, and BIA has a capacity restriction for so long, which we are doing, which actually is a historical burden taken by present
consecutive governments failed to expand BIA.
So that's the key. I think that's been finalized. The tenders and everything is being finalized. So we'll take at least 2 years for BIA to be properly expanded. Then Jaffna, fortunately, we are using for short distance flights and utilizing it very effectively. Mattal is the other option. We need to develop it as a kind of tourism airport of Sri Lanka. And we are working very hardly with ASL, other parties, to promote Mattala and connected it with the air suppliers and the airlines to make it a viable airport itself. This air infrastructure is essential for us to create the connectivity. Aligned to that, if you think about South Asia, does not have a kind of a cruise hub. And Sri Lanka, if you think about East Asia, if you think about the Far East and all, they have cruise hubs. If you think about Singapore, if you think about Thailand, there are cruise hubs. Those hubs are actually operating hubs of the cruisers. So we are in a very much of a strategic location for cruisers, but unfortunately South Asia we don't have cruise hub. So ideally, if we are being thinking strategically, it's a good PPP venture, private-public partnership venture, which can generate a lot of cruise tourism to this country. So that's one aim, like we have been government, the port authorities and everybody's been talking about. So that's something that we need to be looked at. And other thing is the domestic air transportation. If you think about east to be developed, if you think about north to be developed, road access from Katunayak International Airport to the north part or east part will at least take about 10 hours. So that itself is making it a bit more unattractive for tourists to reach unless they have multiple stops. So if you have been connecting that with the particular the spaces we have, the airports we have, say Batiklo connected to Mattala, Mattala connected to BIA, BIA connected to Jaffna, and we have scheduled domestic flights, I think North and East will be massively potential, prosperous tourist destinations of Sri Lanka. So those are very much a focus objectives of the government that you can even see in the reflection of the budget speech of the president. He's talking about domestic aviation development, he's talking about domestic airport development, and civil aviation and ASL is also working hard with us to make this particular viability possible. So with that, we can make entire country equally distributed, the tourism. And with that, we have new destinations. With that, the communities will prosper, Niresh.
Right, and you're talking about air transport, but there's also road, highway transport, express, and we saw just a few weeks ago the relaunch of the Kadawatha Mirigama stretch, which unfortunately didn't get done due to the economic debacle, and of course Mirigama to Kurunagala has been functioning for several years now. So basically it'll take a couple of years, but at that point you will be able to basically drive from Colombo or BIA to Kurunagala on an expressway, and then from Kurunagala onwards. And I think also Kurunagala Kandy is being constructed as well. So that's going to open up everything beyond. Right?
Adding up those roadways will also extremely beneficial for tourism, because what we see is the tourism potential all over Sri Lanka is immense. If you think about districts which has lesser number of tourism, like Kurunagala, maybe like say North, the Kilinochchi, Mullaitivu and all, unexplored potential is immense. So one good thing is like we have the capability or the potential of extending the highways, and the other one is the railway network, which I think at this moment we have been using it as a kind of a just passenger transportation. But we have the massive potential was to develop railway as a kind of a tourism mode of transport, like the luxury railways in India or speedways in other countries, which we have the ways there, which we have a kind of real old as well as real well-established railway network in this part of the world. And we have one of the most scenic railway routes as well. So we have the potential of developing that as well. So transportation and accessibility is the critical factor for the tourism development.
Right.
TV1, TV for life.